I'm absolutely honored to be moderating this panel today. Speak to two incredible farmers from two different regions and who represent very different farming styles as well, but share a commitment for sustainable farming and improving their communities. So Claire Sloan is from Andrews Farm in Fife, Scotland, who specializes in producing sustainable and seasonal produce, contributing to the local Scottish food economy. And Howard Msukwa, representing the Kaporo Smallholders Farming Association in northern Malawi, who focuses on smallholder farming, producing rice and other crops while working with fair trade partners to support their communities. So starting with you, Claire, could you tell us a bit more about Andrews Farm and where it's located, what you produce, and who works at the farm?
So again, thank you so much for having me along today. It really is an honour. I might not look like your traditional farmer. When I normally do these speeches, I say it's because I'm young and 2'2" and blonde, but actually I think I need to probably take the young bit out because that doesn't really applicable anymore. But I took on the tenancy. My father has had a tenancy in the East Neuk of Fife since 1968, and unfortunately he died rather Unfortunately, he died rather suddenly about 5 years ago, so I took on the tenancy at that point. Before, I had no interest in farming. I saw my dad working really long hours for not very much money, and I said, I'm definitely not going to do that. So I'm actually a qualified accountant. I was working in practice, earning very good money, getting weekends off and lots of holidays. And for some reason, I gave it all up to come home to the farm. But no, I absolutely love it. My dad always said that if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life, and that is completely true. So in about 2005, my mum and dad realised that farming in Scotland wasn't sustainable anymore. It wasn't sustainable for us as a family. Apparently my dad had 3 very expensive daughters, but I mean, I wouldn't like to confirm that. It wasn't sustainable for us as a family, it wasn't sustainable for the environment, and it wasn't sustainable for our farm. So we decided we needed to make some changes. So in 2005, we opened a farm shop, and we did so because there wasn't an opportunity in Scotland for us to retail our goods directly. There was farmers' markets, but they only ran once a month, and there wasn't we wouldn't be able to sell the volumes that we needed to make our farms sustainable. So since 2005, our shop has grown. Our main aim is to sell as much as we produce ourselves on our farm through our farm shop, whilst also supporting as many other local farmers as we possibly can, and other local producers. So my sister does the ordering every Monday, and I asked her this Monday how many orders she was doing, and we are working with, on average, about 380 local suppliers delivering into us every week now. We grow about 52 different varieties of vegetables on the farm, everything from carrots to squashes to weeds and everything in between. We also produce our own cattle and sheep, and all of that progeny goes through the shop, and we use them to rotate round our arable rotation to make our arable side more sustainable, use less inorganic fertilisers and chemicals, and we still sell to the maltsters our wheat, barley, oilseed rape and beans, but again trying to fixate on a 5-year rotation, we knew all this stuff. My granddad was doing all this years ago, and as money and technology have changed, we've lost all the knowledge that we've got, so what we're trying to do is farm in a way that balances the new technology with what we knew in the past and see if there's a way forward today. So yeah, that's what we do. If anyone's ever in the East Neuk of Fife, it's Ardross Farm. We've got social media, you can look us up on social media.
Thank you so much, Claire. Howard, on to you. Could you tell us a bit more about your farm and sort of what you produce and what you do there, and your team as well?
Thank you. It's my honor to stand before you here, especially let me congratulate Martin Rhodes, because I knew him as a fair trade campaigner. Today he is an honorable MP. Congratulations, Martin. I am Howard Msukwa. I come from Malawi. Malawi is a small country in Central Africa. I come from a district called Karonga. In Karonga, we are about 40,000 smallholder farmers who grow rice, but I come from an organization called Kaporo Smallholder Farmers Association. In Karonga, we are not farmers who have big land, we are just smallholder farmers. On average, each one of us would have 1 to 2 acres of land. On that piece of land, we grow a variety of crops like rice, the Kilombero rice, which is brought here in Scotland by True Origin. That is our cash crop. But we also have other varieties of rice. We also grow maize corn, cassava, sweet potatoes, groundnuts, which we use as for food security in our homes. In terms of fair trade issues, in the past we used to grow rice just as a tradition, but since we started working with the True Origin, we have now improved to the status that our organization is now registered with the World Fair Trade Organization, which is not simple for such a small organization in Africa to be registered with such a global organization. In Africa, we are faced by a lot of challenges, but the great challenges which affect us are the impact of climate change. If we talk about climate change, it affects us mostly in 3 ways. We have massive floods, we have prolonged droughts, and then we have very strong winds which blow up our houses. So when I hear you people in Scotland talking about climate change, yes, thank you that you're able to talk about climate change, but what I know is you see it in pictures. You can see climate change effects on your computers, on books, on screens. But we in Africa, it is real and it affects us very negatively, because you can find that farmers who have their crops on their fields today, tomorrow they have nothing, because we had a lot of rains and it has just washed out all the crops that was on the fields. Or farmers who were very excited that this year we are going to have a good harvest, all of a sudden you can have a prolonged dry spell for maybe 3 weeks. So with the temperatures in our area, you find that if you have no system of irrigation, then all your crops is wiped out. So, or in some other cases, you can find that you are sleeping in your house at night, all of a sudden you have very strong winds and they blow out the roofs of your houses. So that's why I say, if you are talking about climate change here in Scotland, you see it in pictures on your computers and on papers, but in Malawi, it's real. So we as Kaporo smallholder farmers, we are lucky, somehow lucky, because we have True Origin, which brings our product into this country, and it is this product that brings me here. Thank you, John, and your organization, because you are able to expose us. By exposing us, you also expose the real effects of climate change on human beings. So what I can just say to you is thank you very much. Meet True Origin and find out about our very nice Kilombero. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now you must have been looking at my notes because you answered the next question I was going to ask you. So that's brilliant. So we'll go to you, Claire, then. So having had what Howard has spoken about, the challenges they face, do you resonate with some of these? Are you facing some of these challenges yourself in Andrew's farm?
Yeah, I think that you're completely right. We don't see climate change to the extremes that they're seeing in other countries, but I think climate change does really affect us. I have certain areas of land on the farm that is now flooded throughout the winter. I can't put any winter cropping in at all. This affects me for 2 reasons. One, it just limits rotation, but also we try and do quite a lot of work with cover crops to try and improve soil biology, try and make sure that there's cover for ground nesting birds. We work with RSPB, but these big areas are now not able to go into cover crops. They're now just left blank. There's a big philosophy in my farming that we are not not really crop farmers, we're sunshine farmers, and if there's nothing growing in your soil to take the nutrients we get out of the sun, then you're wasting half a year. So we like to see growing roots in our soil at all points, not only just for soil structure, for microbiology, for everything. So the flooding does have an effect on us, not the same, obviously, effect as seen in other countries. I suppose other challenges are water. Again, we've been seeing drier and drier summers. We don't have any irrigation on our farm. We're a completely dry farm. So everything we do, we pray to God. All my family laugh because they're saying, what weather is it you want today? And I'm saying, I want rain today, but it needs to be dry 2 weeks because I've got some straw to cut. And I'm never happy, but it is just because we are completely open to the elements. And what's been happening in Scotland is the seasons are getting more extreme. In the winter, they're getting wetter. In the summer, they're getting drier. So it does make, just as look at farming slightly differently and see how we can change it. So other challenges, I suppose staffing is a big challenge. So we try and only employ local people in our shop. So at the moment, we're employing about 27 local people in our area, which is quite a big employer for such a rural location. But trying to get staff at the moment is a challenge. I've currently got 3 job adverts out at the moment, and there's just not that many people in the area looking for work. So that is a constant struggle, just to keep really motivated team in and to keep them going. We also have other struggles. We're competing on a global market. Malting barley just now, I actually looked at a slip that my dad got the year he was born for selling malting barley, and malting barley, I won't tell you the year I was born, several years ago, was sitting at £164 a tonne, and I phoned yesterday to get a price for malting barley, and it is £174 a tonne. So if you look at the price of labour, of diesel, of the cost of everything into that, the margins are just not there, which is a constant struggle. So that is a constant struggle. I suppose the new legislation coming in from government is putting a lot of pressure on. There's a big focus away from food production onto environmental elements on the farm. As a small-scale farmer, I think that's wrong. I think that every farmer has a huge opportunity to do better for their area, the environment, for their food production. And if every farmer grew food in a sustainable way, then that would be a far better philosophy than rewilding huge areas of land and bringing in food from abroad that we could be growing in this country. And I think there's a real balance there that we have to be careful not to miss. The carbon audits are a prime example of that. The government are very focused on carbon audits, but the mechanisms behind carbon audits do not work for farmers whatsoever. In our system, we do not plough any ground. If you plough ground, it releases carbon into the atmosphere. It also leaves soil away for soil erosion. You know, it's definitely not, in any sense of things, the right thing to do in our climate. But in a carbon audit situation, they don't take into account that ploughing releases carbon. That's forgotten about. So because we achieve slightly lower yields on our fields because we're direct drilling and we're looking after the soil, our carbon audits are actually higher, which is actually encouraging farmers to do probably the one thing you don't want them to do, intensify. So I think that before government legislates on these things, they need to get the mechanics behind them correct and work out what is actually important to everyone in this country. Farmers are pretty good. After the war, there was a lot of hunger, and the government asked the farmers to produce food and produce food cheap, and farmers responded. That's what they did. We produced food cheap. They've now changed and say, you know, we need to look after the environment more. And the farmers can do that. They've got a huge power and a huge ability to do that, but we just need to be pushed in the right directions. Tell us what you actually want us to do, and they can do it. The farmers will respond, and we could make a massive difference. But the legislation that farmers are getting is very confusing, and that does present another challenge of farming in Scotland.
Yeah, thank you so much, Claire. Just sticking to you, you spoke about sustainable farming. Could you sort of highlight some of the sustainable practices you have at Andrews Farm?
Yes, so I suppose our livestock is a huge bit about that. We move the livestock around the farm constantly, trying to put organic manure back into the farm at all points to support our vegetable production, to support the arable production. Again, using cover crops, we want to have growing roots in the soil at all points. We need to make sure that we're taking as much out of the atmosphere as possibly we can and bringing it back down in the soil to nurture that soil. If we don't look after our soil, then we have nothing else. That is our main policy, is to look after our soil. So that could include things like we use a machine called a Claydon drill, which direct drills into stubbles, which means the stubble from, you'll see combines combining just now and they'll leave stubble in the field. We just direct drill straight into that. So that stubble's still got the root structure, it's still holding onto the soil, and we're putting the next crop into that, allowing it to grow. My dad always described it to me like it's like building a house. The worms in the ground build you a house every year, and every year you take a plough through it and knock down their house. Well, if you don't do that, instead of next year them rebuilding the house, they're actually putting an extension on and a swimming pool and all of this, all going on underneath the ground, which is what we try to do at Ardross. But I also think we need to be sustainable in our community, so that's why we've got a big focus on employing local people and also supporting local suppliers. We have suppliers all the time that come to us and say, I've got this really daft idea, I've got an orchard in my garden, I want to start making apple juice, no idea about it. So we sit and go through the kind of environmental health policies with them, what they'll need to do, how they get their labelling done, how they bring it to market. Because if we can support other people in our area, then the whole system works better. We also have a policy that we don't ask for discounts or we don't ask suppliers if they can do it cheaply. We supplied vegetables to the supermarket for years and we were the bottom of the chain. And if there was ever a discount at the top, that was us at the bottom. And we decided that we didn't want that. Anyone that supplies us, it needs to be sustainable right the way through the chain, because if one link falls out, then it doesn't work for anyone. So we make sure that the whole chain, that anyone that supplies us is sustainable. Saying that, we try and support as many local farmers and local people as possible, but people were getting annoyed with me because they came to our shop for the really nice tonic and the really nice Scottish gin and then had to go to the supermarket to buy their lemon for it. And they said, this is really not great, Claire. So we do then source products we cannot source locally from abroad, and we make sure they're fair trade as much as possible and try and bring in the same people that have the same kind of standards as us into our shop, which allows us to be a rural supermarket, the link between consumers and good food, hopefully.
Thank you so much. Howard, you also invest in sustainable farming in Malawi. So could you tell us a bit more about what you're doing in terms of community development, any other sustainable practices you have, and et cetera, et cetera?
Thank you once again. Our sustainable projects will be very different from what our colleagues do here in Scotland, because we are people who come from two different worlds. So doing sustainable projects will be also depend on, like in Africa, the poverty levels do much, they bring us behind on projects that we would like to do. But as an organization which is in partnership with our colleagues here, we are doing much to sustain our farming and our business. So if I was talking about the fair trade registration, is one way of sustaining our farming, because through that we are able to produce quality foods, which is liked by our off-takers, so we have a sustainable market. If you have a sustainable market, it means you also have to be sustainable producers. You don't have to disappoint your off-takers. But at the same time, we are doing more in investing in education, because in Africa, education is not for free. So what we have learned through fair trade is that without education, there's no sustainability of partnership. Without education, there's no sustainability of farming, because you will not be able to understand what your market requires. So in terms of education, because of this partnership, we are sending our children to secondary schools, and some are even going to universities. So what we are doing is to encourage our children to come back to our communities when they've gone to school, so that they help to sustain our business in the village. But also, it is difficult to keep a huge number of youth who are just roaming about in the village when you want to do sustainable agriculture. So what we are doing is we are bringing the youth together, teach them skills so that they are able to make their own money so that they don't become troublemakers in the village, to be troubling farmers who want to progress. While at the same time, as an association, we have association field officers who work for Kaporo smallholder farmers, and we are doing climate smart agriculture so that at least we are able to sustain our production. Because without new methods of agriculture, our production will go down and we will not be able to sustain our business. Thank you very much.
Brilliant, thank you, Howard. And just quickly, you spoke earlier about your partnership with True Origin. So could you tell us a bit more about the relationship you have with them and how sort of this relationship has been essential for your farm?
We started being partners with True Origin from around 2009, 2010, when True Origin started bringing in the rice into Scotland. When they found us, we were just traditional farmers. But because of this partnership, I think the 5,000 farmers behind me are no longer traditional farmers, because we now know that in this world, we need to comply with what the market demands. Therefore, we have improved a lot on the quality of our rice, because we are now a registered seed grower association in Malawi, which means every year, apart from the normal crop that we produce, we have a number of farmers who grow basic seed to produce certified, which we give to almost all our farmers, which is sold here in Scotland. And apart from that, we are talking about climate change issues. We are able to combat climate change issues through irrigation. In Malawi, as most of you can see, you know how Malawi is. We have a long lake along our country, which means the water table is not very deep. So we discovered that, and we told our partners that we can do more to increase production, even if we have droughts, by doing irrigation. So what this partnership is doing is to send us money. We buy motorized water pumps and solar pumps. So when you have a prolonged drought, for farmers who are under this association, some of them it is easier because they are able to get water to put on their crops. Even when we have floods, when the floods have destroyed our crop, this Kilombero, which is sold here in Scotland, takes 6 months, close to 6 months to mature. So when it is disturbed in between, it is difficult to grow it again. But what we do is, when it is destroyed, we know it can be destroyed maybe during the middle of the rain season. So after the floods, we have the temperatures going high and the land drying, so we can go back to our water pumps, to our wells, and plant other short varieties of rice which are mature quick, and other crops like maize and cassava, so that at least even if we fail to take the rice to the market, but we are food secure because of this partnership. It is not only that we do with the partnership. These partners of ours have been sending money to us to send very needy children to school. At first, we thought we were only going to help children who were in secondary schools. But after sending a few children to secondary schools, we discovered that our children were very intelligent, where they still needed to go to university. And this partnership in Malawi have produced graduates. At the moment, we have one boy who is doing agricultural economics, which is one of the very difficult courses in Malawi because it involves a lot of mathematical calculations, but he's the best in class. So without this partnership, that boy will be in the village doing nothing. It's not only that this partnership brings out. When I started coming here in 2012, but in 2013, I met people like you in Dumfries, and the partnership that we have made in Dumfries has enabled us to put the youth in the village to teach them skills. So we have a skills development center where the youth who could have been troublemakers in the village are now able to learn welding and fabrication, tailoring, fashion and design, carpentry and joinery, and recently we are going to introduce knitting. So without this partnership, this could have not been possible. So what it means to us is this partnership is not only about fair trade, it is also about community development. Yes. Thank you very much.
Good. So Claire, on to you. You spoke about obviously sourcing some of your products as well. So could you tell us a bit more about the partnerships you have at Antlers Farm, and so do you have any local partners, global partners, and so how do you work with them?
Yes, so what we chose to do on our farm was we were already producing beef and lamb, and we were one of the biggest broccoli growers in Scotland for the supermarkets at the time. My mum said to my dad when we first opened, it was tiny, we had one freezer, and she said to him, like, just go and cut some broccoli from the field and we'll bring it in. And we brought some in, and customers were coming in and saying, wow, I've never tasted broccoli like that. And Dad laughed and he said, well, it's in every supermarket in Scotland, so I don't know how not. But the reality is that when Dad picked it from the field, on average, it was sitting in cold stores for 69 days before ever getting to a supermarket shelf. So actually, it wasn't any different broccoli, but what was happening was customers were taking it home and they were getting fresh, good broccoli that was full of nutrients, and it did taste different. They were completely right. So at that point, we decided to grow as much vegetables as we could on a small scale, which was a massive learning curve. My dad was used to growing 300 acres of broccoli that were all ready to harvest at once, and suddenly we needed 30 heads of broccoli ready every single day for the entire year. So I can tell you there's been a few mistakes along the way. But we realised then that we can't do everything, and that other farmers do things a lot better than we can. Along the road from us, there is Grangemere strawberries. I don't know if you guys ever get the fish vans through here with Grangemere strawberries, but they are phenomenal. So we don't attempt to grow them. They deliver them fresh into us every week, every day. And that's where we go from there. We have farmers that grow sprouts for supermarkets, so they deliver them in at Christmas time, straight on the stalks for us as soon as possible. So what we really did was we looked around what all the farmers were doing locally and left that for them. We only fill in the gaps, the bits that local people are not producing, that we think we can do ourselves. So that is as much local farmers as possible, but there's also a huge area. The East Neuk of Fife is really upping their game in food production. Scotland used to be known for fried Mars bars and all sorts of horrific food like that, and we've really changed our reputation recently, and especially in the East Neuk. We used to have to go to food fairs in London and Newcastle every year to try and see if we could source new exciting products for the farm shop. We now get local people coming into us on a weekly basis saying, I've got this new product. I had a girl yesterday with kimchi that she'd brought in that she's making locally. And it makes our job so much easier when there's all these local people looking for someone to work with and looking for that connection to the market. So yeah, that is our biggest kind of priority, is to support as many local businesses as possible through our farm shop. We're just the link really between customers and their food.
We've had a lot of discussion today about both local and global farming. And how do you see the role of local farming in a global food system? And what are your thoughts on the direction of supply that supply is taking?
So I think local food is really, really important. If we're worried about the climate and our kind of carbon status, local food is definitely the way to do that. But we can't get everything local. So if you are having to go global, you need to look at where it's coming from, what farm it is, what are the kind of air miles to get it across here. I have argued, even with the Whisky Association, that Scotch whisky should be made with Scotch barley, and we're not bringing it in from abroad, but I have been laughed out of many a conference room about it. They say they use Scottish water, so that's all they need to do, apparently. But the barley in a bottle of whiskey costs less than the cap on the top of a bottle of whiskey. So that's how much farmers are getting out of that. So yeah, I think things like that needs to change. If we can produce it in our country, then we should be producing it in our country, and food security is huge. We need to focus on food security and make sure we are secure, but we need to keep partnerships up like this that can benefit the whole global system for things that we can't produce. So I think it's really about getting that balance.
And to you, how important is it for your community that you continue to supply your rice to international markets on fair trade terms? And so what are the broader implications for the local farmers as well?
Thank you. It's very important for us to continue supplying rice to international partners, because at the moment we only have one partner, one international partner who is buying from us. But from the results of this partner, we think maybe we needed even to do more, even to have more partners who could be buying from us, because the result is very positive. If it is not more partners coming in to buy from us, it should be having more support from you people in Scotland. Because if you buy more rice from this, it is just the same like we have another partner who is coming to help to take more rice from us. As for the community, yes, our community has to change because we need more partnership. From my colleague here, we need to be in partnership, because there is a lot that we can learn from you. You've talked about things which I think we have to think about, which you can support us. You are talking about improving the soil, which we farmers in Africa maybe we don't think about because of floods and the other means of soil degradation. We don't think about improving the soil. So maybe we will be in touch so that maybe we can be the first African organization to be doing something like improving the soil using the modern techniques which our fellow farmers are doing. Otherwise, usually I've said that you are not farmers. You are simply machine operators. But we are farmers.
We do dig the vegetables fresh every morning, if that counts.
These people are not farmers. If I say we are farmers, farming has its own history. So you have done a lot of development which is moving away from being farmers to be, you have made everything simple. And if we are in touch, we learn from you, we can also improve from that. But we need more education to do that, so that our children can be learning while can be doing changes on the farm while they are educated. It's impressive to hear that this young lady here left her profession and went to inherit her father's farm. That's very good. And it is going well because she is educated. So that is probably one area why we are lacking in Africa. Thank you very much.
Yes.